Okay, good afternoon. Hope everyone's having a good day so far. So I'm going to go through CV sins. Now, this area is actually one of my favorite workshops that we do. Reason being, we're going to touch on career strategy as well. It's exactly where you need to start. All right, we're going to go into all the detail behind that. What's the benefits of having an effective career strategy? How that plays into your CV? How you actually build an effective CV? What are the challenges in the market? Right now, what are we going to see moving forward, and how does that help you overcome them? Exactly as Lisa was mentioning, we've only got about 6 weeks left of an effective job market between now and the end of the year, which is crazy to think about because given we're only midway through October, but that's really what you've got. So if you're trying to secure a new job between now and the end of the year, you need to really double down on what are you trying to achieve, and then you get the tools in place on how you're going to achieve them. So just before we get into that, I always find it's helpful to kick off and say that there is no career roadmap, I'm yet to see one, that is straightforward, all right? My own in particular, that hasn't changed, there we go, was very messy, and a lot of people's are, okay? So I started off as a carpenter. After that, and figuring out that that wasn't for me, and thankfully didn't lose any limbs along the way, I worked in a number of different roles to really figure out where I should be. It shouldn't be that difficult to do that, and thankfully now it's much easier, but I had to figure all this out myself over the last number of years. Where should I be? What should I do? What's the right strategy? How you go about it? And that's exactly what brought us to actually creating the Career Coach in 2021. We're now Ireland's number one. We've been renewed for this year as Ireland's number one. We're proud to announce we're Europe's number one career coaching firm. And our whole focus is about helping individuals overcome the challenges that we're seeing right now. That's our whole concept. Because of that, we've also worked with a number of businesses, because for us, it's great to be able to walk out and say, cool, this is what you need to do in order to overcome the top barriers of entry to the job market. We also need to work on the other side of that coin with businesses to help them make it easier to find good talent or to unearth hidden talent. Does that make sense? So a number of our clients are down the bottom, as you'll see, from our B2B side that we work with to improve their strategy and help them make it easier for individuals to overcome those challenges. So we're going to go through a lot of the learnings that we've taken from that, and as well as the international focus that I've had the good fortune of working on to figure out what's happening on the international front that actually will help you here and how we can relate the two, all right? It is I find it a really interesting topic. CVs for an awful lot of people probably aren't an interesting topic, right? So to make things as interesting as possible and keep the energy nice and big in the room, I am going to ask for your engagement, so I'm going to be asking you to throw up your hands in a couple of different segments, all right? So hopefully you'll indulge me with it. So before we jump into that, quick insight into what we actually do. So these are our three main programs. Our team are outside if you want to talk to them. So if you're struggling to get a job and you feel you've tried everything, talk to the team. They'll go through exactly what they can help you with. If you're not sure on what your next step should be because you don't like what you're doing, and I'll ask a couple of questions around that in a little while, then again, have a chat with them, because we focus in on helping people transition into new careers. Or if you're ready for that next step, but you feel like you've hit a ceiling and you don't know how to get past it, again, we focus on that area. And that's regardless of what stage you're at, whether you're going from an entry level to a senior to team lead, manager, C-suite, etc., etc. Yeah? So the whole gambit we work with. All right? So, first things first, who has a career strategy? Who would say they have a career strategy? Show of hands. Okay, right. It's not a criticism in any way, shape, or form. Depending on the room I'm in at the time, I do get some more now than when I started asking that question about 2 years ago. It's not something, if you think back to when you're in school, when you're in college, and I work with a lot of the colleges, and some of them are here today, it's not something that's actually brought up a lot of the time. What's your career strategy? Where are you going? What do you want to do? People are studying courses, but they're still trying to figure that out as they're studying the course or how they get there. And the support systems are getting better, but it's still not something that we're taught on a regular basis. So most people would say that they don't have a career strategy, or they're still trying to figure it out, which is okay. Here's the thing though. How do we know what tools to build, like a CV, like your LinkedIn and everything else? How do we know how to do that if we don't know where we're going and what we're trying to do? All right, so making sure you have a career strategy is really, really important. So the two things for us that we're going to talk on today, and to make sure you're really clear on, is if you have the right effort, and I would imagine you have the right effort because you're here today and you're trying to figure out what's the next step. So I think we're going well on the effort. We can always turn it up a dial, and we can always look for that 1% more, but you then need the right strategy. effort with the right strategy will get you the right result. One without the other, unfortunately, won't get you anywhere. You might get there with luck or by chance, but it does not give you the tools and the support that you'll need to build a really rewarding career. Does all that make sense? 2 quick questions. Can you hear me okay? Number 1. And is the pace okay? Am I going too fast or too slow? All good? Deadly. Thank you. So, 4 key reasons why you need a career strategy. Gives you clarity, gives you focus, makes sure it allows you to be adaptable, and you have to take action with it. All right? If you do those, you will build it is proven you will build a rewarding career. All right? Yes, the strategy has to be right for sure, but that's how you refine it over time, and that's where the adaptability piece comes in. Yeah? The big thing that I have to highlight all the time with everyone is you can't hit a goal you haven't defined. You can't achieve something you don't know what it is, if you don't know what it is, yeah? So figuring that out first is always key. So to help you do that, who's heard of SWOT analysis before? Yeah? Have you ever used it for your skill set? Yeah? 1 or 2? Good. Awesome. Love it. So the benefit behind doing a SWOT analysis, for those that don't know about it, it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. All right? The benefit is number 1, reminding us ourselves of our strengths is a really positive step because it actually helps us remind how good we are and what the unique value we can bring. Looking at our weaknesses isn't about beating ourselves up. Every single person in the room has weaknesses, so get comfortable with them. Yeah, there's no problem with that. If your weakness is an area that you need to develop to become better in your career, then that now becomes an opportunity. It's an area for development, and the benefit is in this day and age, most courses are available very, very quickly in a very easy way and at a very cost-effective level. Yeah, so it actually becomes much easier to close any skill gaps. The big thing that people don't look enough at is threats. Who here would be worried about AI being a threat to their career? Anyone? Anyone worried about AI threatening their career? Couple? Yeah? Okay. Cool. I'll be honest. There's a lot of scaremongering around AI. At the same point, there's also an awful lot of founded reasons behind why they're scaremongering. Okay, so that's not to scare anyone. What that should be is that awareness is one of the recipes we talked about earlier on. Being understanding of where we're going, what we're doing, and what's happening allows us to thrive in a much more effective way. So AI is coming. It's going to be impactful to loads of different industries. The benefit is being aware of that. We can turn that threat into an opportunity to learn and turn it into one of our strengths, which actually makes us a more applicable candidate, a more sought-after candidate, and likely will make us a more valuable candidate, which will mean we'll earn more. Does that make sense? So leveraging any threat and turning them into opportunities, and that's a very easy thing to say, but the benefit is that actually it's much easier in in here and now than it's ever been before. AI itself will actually help you learn AI and create courses for you. It's that advanced. So the benefit is there's massive opportunity moving forward. Once we've done that, it then tells us our transferable skills, because as we develop, as we grow as individuals, and whatever your success metric is or whatever you're trying to achieve in your career, the benefit is that we can actually use those skills to move up into a more senior role and increase our own earning potential, or move into different roles. But understanding that first is key. Once we've done that and understand that transferable skills, we then need to make sure we have our goal. We need to know where we're going. We need that clarity of what we're trying to achieve. Who's heard of SMART goals before? Yeah? Use them regularly or so-so? All right, cool. So you've got to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and in a time-bound fashion. Most people go about halfway through this and then kind of don't really set a time frame on it because they don't know whether they can do it or not. A realistic goal is something you can actually define in terms of a time-bound scenario. That could be a year, that could be 2 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Yeah, but you do need to make sure you put a time frame on it. It doesn't mean you're always going to hit that time frame, but it does mean you are at least 80% more likely to hit that time frame than if you hadn't put one, or to hit the goal in general, than if you hadn't put a time frame on it in the first place. Does that make sense? Once you've done that, I want you to researching the roles you're going into. By a show of hands, any accountants in the room? Happy in accounting? 50-50, okay. 50-50? Okay, cool. I'm not picking on accountants. I have loads of friends, family members and everything else. Loads of them that absolutely love it. But in today's age now, because accounting has gone so much broader, they're able to step into different roles that actually bring them an awful lot more passion and joy, leveraging what they did in accounting, but hated accounting when they by the time they moved out of it, all right? The benefit now is that we have so much information at our fingertips, we can figure out what the day-to-day looks like every single day, or for the most part. And if we're happy with 80-85% of what our day-to-day looks like, then we're in the right spot and we're on the right career path. I'm not always happy all the time. This is definitely my career path, but I'm definitely not always happy all the time. About 90, 95, thankfully. If you're in that bracket, amazing, you're in the right spot. But if you're about 50, 60% and you're not really getting fulfilled, then it's time to start looking at where's my transferable skills and what are the opportunities I could achieve elsewhere. Yeah? Once we've done that, we then want to continually develop our skills. I mentioned AI already. Leveraging that for your success or any other advancement that we're going to see, and we're going to see plenty in the next couple of years, is going to be really, really important. All right? So making sure that we can continually develop those skills is going to be really impactful for your career. And doing exactly what you're doing today, but just make sure we continue to do it. You got to network. You got to be out at loads of events. And that doesn't stop just when you get a job, when you get your next step in your career. You should continually do that, because you've no idea of the impact of the people you'll meet today, the people you'll meet next week or in the next month or in your new job or in different areas, online or otherwise, of whether they're going to be part of your team moving forward, whether you're going to be part of theirs, or whether you're just going to collaborate for business moving forward. You've no idea the impact that will have, so they can continually building that in as part of your strategy is such an important step. All right? So I've talked enough about career strategy. We're going to go into CVs. So who here would say they know what a CV is? Yeah? What do we reckon it is? Shout for me. Marketing tool. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Okay, so a marketing tool or a sales tool, I would normally say, both of which are very correct, right? It is about marketing or selling your skills. A lot of the time when we're writing a CV, we write it for ourselves. It is not for us, all right? It is for the person that's reading it. Like any of the pamphlets you see today, they're not for the people that wrote them. They are for you guys, all right? So it's the same idea. You have to start thinking of it in that way, because a lot of people just document their skills and they'll figure it out. They won't, I promise you. They're looking for a reason. I'll get into that in a moment to move on. All right. So why do we need one? What's the whole purpose of having a CV? Get an interview. Love it. All right. We need to get an interview. That's the whole objective. After that, it really doesn't matter. Okay, because you're in the room, you're having a conversation. Yes, they'll use it for the basis of the conversation, but after that, it doesn't really matter that much. Yeah. It's then about your suitability for the role, how well you articulate yourself, do you match the values and everything else. All right. A challenging statistic, and we're probably going to see it increase, I would say. There's about 75% of CVs aren't going to be seen by human eyes. The more AI is adopted into applicant tracking systems, they're not that advanced yet. Most of them don't have AI, some of them do. And that'll help you on one hand, and I'll go through that in a moment too, but it won't help you in other hands, because they're going to have a very set, structured list, and that's all an applicant tracking system is. It's a criteria that goes, hey, do you match the job description or do you not? Yeah. So if you tick all those boxes, excellent. Now you get to move to HR and they'll review your skill set and experience. And then you might get to the hiring manager and then you might get an interview. That's typically the process. But we got to beat the ATS first. So we got to make sure we're working in line with that. As limited as they are and as less impactful as your CVs can be in terms of the visual appealing aspect of it, we got to work with what they need us to do. So who would have a CV that looks like this? Show of hands, anyone? Deadly. It's getting less and less every time I ask that one. The challenge with CVs that look like this, or canvas CVs, or anything with imagery on them, right, as much as they could look much better, the problem is that most applicant tracking systems will read it like this. All right, not all of them, some are more advanced. Because it sees it as an image, it can't pick the information off it. And even if it's a little bit more advanced in terms of an applicant tracking system, it can get some of them. Now, we've redacted some of the information, actually. It can get some of the information, but in this particular scenario, they're applying for a job. It didn't pick up their name. It picked up a drink that they made because they're a bartender making Bloody Marys, and that's what it picked up as their name. Now, if you think of a recruiter that's sitting there reading hundreds of CVs every single day after it gets through an applicant tracking system or anything else, even if you beat the ATS and get it through, the likelihood is they'll still discard it because of the formatting. So we have to make sure we're working in line with what best practice is. The challenge for you guys is that nobody's going to know that. Nobody tells you what best practice is in the market now. We're going through that now, thankfully, and hopefully you'll take an awful lot away from this session. But largely, they don't talk about best practice out in the market and how people work behind the scenes, so you can then move forward to actually get an interview. So we're trying to close that gap and make sure you guys understand this is what's happening, this is why it's happening, and then how do you get over that. Does that make sense so far? Yeah? Cool. So, a couple of other CV sins that we see regularly now. Who uses the same CV for every role? Couple? Oh, I'll appreciate the bravery, all right? Why shouldn't you use the same CV? Anyone know? Yeah, it should be tailored, all right? You have to tailor it, because here's the challenge. If you don't tailor it, it looks like you're sending a stock CV to everyone and we're expecting them to figure it out. They're going to give you about 6 seconds, all right? So if it's not apparent in 6 seconds as to why they should progress you to an interview, they're not going to. So even if you beat the applicant tracking system, the person that reviews it is going to give you 6 seconds, which isn't a lot of time. Yeah, so there's stuff we're going to go through to show you how you capitalize on that 6 seconds and make sure that they stay engaged with you. But that's one of the biggest things you got to be aware of. So tailoring it's going to be really important. Sending the wrong file is a big problem. It happens so often. All right. In this scenario, they sent a Jamie Oliver recipe. All right. We received a burrito menu from somebody for an application. Then they followed up and asked about why they weren't being considered for an interview. Now, we also tried out the burrito bar and it was nice, but they certainly didn't get an interview. All right. So one of the big things I need you thinking about is, and we'll get into the next reason, is naming the document. All right. So naming it correctly, not just in a random way of My CV Dublin, yeah, or whatever it may be. Naming a document correctly is really important. For one, to find it on your laptop or your phone. Yeah. Number two is, if you think about the first impression that somebody has, if they receive an application from you or an email from you, the first thing they see is the name of the CV. That is their first impression of your skill set and your experience, and whether you've taken the effort and time to apply for that job correctly, rather than just sending them a stock CV. So tailoring the name by saying your name, the job title, and the company will actually help you get points immediately, or get a quick tick to say, actually, this person's really engaged in this process. Yeah, very simple thing, but it changes the outcome very quickly. Or it helps change the outcome, should I say. Who uses keywords? Couple? Okay, good. We're going to go through why they're really important, but it's something that is of the utmost importance to your CV, is using keywords in it that align with the job. One of the other CV sins we see is including irrelevant personal information. All right. Now, hopefully, none of you do it too often, but there is a big challenge in every single market. We all have biases, no matter what. Every single person on the planet has biases in one form or another, positively or negatively. The challenge is, when it comes to recruitment or headhunting or anything else, we have loads of unconscious bias. And unfortunately, giving an opportunity for someone to rule you out of a process is using irrelevant personal information is actually going to accelerate that issue, all right? And I'm going to go through that in a moment. But the big thing I need you thinking about is the information I'm using relevant to me getting the job? If it's not, then don't include it. There's no need for it. So, this is Jenny. Jenny has made a series of CV sins. Who would hazard a guess at how many she has made from what we just went through? Many? Give me a show of hands. It's hard. 5? Less than 5? Jenny's made 8. So, in Ireland and the UK, we don't use a photo. In other locations, you can, but just in Ireland and the UK, we don't. You should always use a professional email. Okay? Don't over-personalize your email, or if you have an over-personal email, then just create a new account that's purely focused on your job hunting or your career. You don't need your full address. Believe it or not, even in Ireland and everything else, there's still unconscious bias around what location you're from. I'm from Tala, and I've actually been ruled out of processes because I put that on the CV. As soon as I put Dublin, I got an interview. Makes no difference of my ability to do the job, but it unfortunately is an unconscious bias towards it. So including your date of birth is not needed. Again, you can have ageism positive or negative in terms of whether you're younger or too old for the role in their mind. There's no need to include your nationality. There's no need to include your marital status. Don't overuse a personalized email URL for your LinkedIn. Just use your name. And there's no need to include your gender. Okay? So none of that is relevant to you being able to deliver in that role. Does that make sense? Cool. So they're the CV sins that people make most of the time and how to correct them, just if you want to grab that. Just give them a couple of seconds there. Cool. Right. So, how do we correct all that fun stuff? It's great knowing all the things not to do, but how do we actually do it correctly? So, this is what a good CV looks like. Now, we've loads, and I mean loads, of talented people in our team that are really creative. We still use this CV, and thankfully, systems are getting better, right? They are definitely getting better. Here's the challenge. That format of a CV is still proving that it's 8 times more effective to be seen by a human eye, right? Still. It's basic, but it's structured, it's clear, it's clean, it hits on all the key notes that are relevant to the role, and it gives us the room to be able to do it without overcomplicating it. Does that make sense? So we'll break it down a little bit further. So, if we look at the top one here, the professional profile, who has a professional profile? Good. Hands going up a little bit more. Awesome. All right, so professional profile is as close as you can get to getting the maximum value from that 6 seconds. They are going to spend about 80% of their time in that area. All right, so when they look at your CV for the first time, so when we get past that wonderful applicant tracking system, we've ticked all the boxes that we needed to tick, they're then going to look at your professional profile, and that's where they're going to spend about 80% of their time, those 6 seconds, to decide, do I move forward with this person and consider them part of my top 10 people, or do I move past them? If they want to move forward, and we make this really compelling, and it touches on there what you should be including, all right? So it's an impactful statement that really highlights your unique skill set, the value you'll bring to this role based on the value you've delivered elsewhere and the types of companies you've worked with. You get that in 6 sentences, and you can do it. It is very, very straightforward to do, okay? Just take the time to do it. Once you've done that, the qualifications are the next piece that they're going to look at. Do they have the necessary qualifications for the role? Now, in some roles, qualifications are irrelevant in some roles. In other roles, they do really require them. So making sure they're front and center. Now, we get it regularly as well in terms of qualifications. If you studied 20 years ago, yeah, and you haven't studied since, your qualifications don't actually go there. They go on the second page, all right, because they become irrelevant to your ability to deliver the role. All right, they're a tick box that you just need in there really for the applicant tracking system. They're not relevant to the person reviewing to see whether you're actually going to be able to do the role. But if you studied in the last 5 to 10 years and your qualifications are really important for the role you're going to deliver, then yes, you keep them there. Does that make sense? So it changes based on your career. If you've gone back to study after doing 20 years experience, we've got really formalized your education in some other way to add greater value, like we were talking about AI or anything else earlier on, then they would move back up to the top. Does that make sense? Because it's about your storyline. Think about what we mentioned earlier on that we're helped with, the marketing document. It is all about making sure you're giving a compelling story about who you are and what makes you the best candidate to deliver the role. Yeah? Once we've done that, we then want to have summary and key achievements, competencies, attributes. This is the area that you're going to highlight. You're going to get an opportunity to cover about three key achievements would be great. You shouldn't go any further than that, okay? 2 lines maximum for each of them. But then you can have your competencies. So that skill set, all of those skills that you have from your experience so far, those buzzwords or those keywords, that's where you want to put them, all right? It's a really important step because if you look at any of the job boards that you're using on a day-to-day basis, so Indeed, Irish Jobs, LinkedIn even, the buzzwords that you use in your CV is actually how they'll find you later, all right? So if I'm looking through Indeed today as a recruiter for some company, I'm going to go in, I'm going to look at, cool, who applied in the last week or even in the last 48 hours, depending. What skills am I looking for? Did they need to have good attention to detail? Did they need to have a qualification in this? Did they need a master's? Whatever it is. I'm going to look for that criteria, and those buzzwords are going to give me that insight. That's going to make my search much easier. So what we're trying to do is make you more visible. If we get you more visible in the market, in CV banks like Indeed and also the applicant tracking system that you've applied to with certain companies, and on LinkedIn, now we've got more opportunity to get access to different jobs, which I'll go through in a minute as to what that is. But that's the opportunity. We need to make you visible, because the more visible you are, the more likely they are to engage with you about opportunities. Then once we're getting into our professional experience, we need to make sure we're succinct in this. We don't, especially if you've got more than 10 years experience, I'll discuss exactly how you do that now. But if you've got less than 10 years experience, how do you set it up correctly and make sure you maximize that? So if you've only just graduated and you don't have professional experience, focus on the projects that you use during your college time, right? That's what this should be. All about your projects. If you've got experience, then of course this is where it goes, yeah? So when you're articulating yourselves, you need to go through an overview, number one, of the company. It doesn't matter whether you work for some of the largest firms on the planet or some of the smallest, makes no difference. It's a good habit to be in, but also large companies have multiple departments, so you need to articulate where you were. Yeah. So 2 lines about the area of the company you were in, 2 lines about your role that you held, start date, end date, and also then 3 to 5 deliverables. Now you can switch those around in terms of start date, end date, job title, the name of the business, 2 lines about the business, 2 lines about your role, and then 3 to 5 deliverables. Conscious I went through a couple of pieces there. Did all that make sense? Awesome. Once you've done that, anything outside of your last role, you don't have to do 5 deliverables. Yeah, you could do 3. 3 to 5 is the norm though. Anything outside of 10 years, you shouldn't include in this section. That would go into additional experience, all right? And they literally just need to include the start and end dates, the name of the company, and the job title you held. The reason being is, if you worked in a role 10 years ago, the skills you developed in that time frame have now been either used again somewhere else in a different role, or you'll need to retrain in them. Like if I went back using a saw now, I'd likely cut my fingers off very, very quickly, yeah? But at the same time, I'd have to retrain in it. Does that make sense? So what we were trying to make sure of is that if you've used something previously that you haven't used since, you've got to retrain it. If you've used, but the other likelihood is that you've used it somewhere else. All good? Cool. In the deliverables, why would I say deliverables and not responsibilities? Anyone know why I'd say that? Thank you. No? Anyone know? Deliverables, responsibilities, what would be the difference? So responsibility, everyone has them. No matter what role you hold in a business, everyone has responsibilities. What really a business cares about, so if I'm hiring someone or any business is hiring anyone, what they care about is your ability to have delivered on those responsibilities and how you deliver them. Because what that shows is what you did previously is how you gives them an indicator of how you would deliver in this role. Does that make sense? But if you had responsibilities previously, well, you're going to have responsibilities in this role, but I still don't know whether you're going to be able to deliver on them. If you focus on deliverables, it changes everything for you. All right? We touched on additional experience already, and then languages or anything else, you would then couple down the bottom or move your experience down as well. All right? The last thing then to touch on is the advert, all right? And I know I mentioned it earlier on around the advert, or it was mentioned earlier on around the advert, should I say. This is your secret sauce at getting past the ATS, all right? The reason being is because if you think about a business, even if they've gone and copy and pasted this from the internet somewhere, they've still set up their applicant tracking system to fundamentally focus on the key things within this. So their experience, the skills, the qualifications, whether you've delivered certain aspects in different roles. They've set up their applicant tracking system to check for that. So once we use that and we leverage that in the right way, it'll automatically give us the tick boxes we need to get past the applicant tracking system. So they're the 3 areas you need to make sure you hit on each job, from each advert. Your qualifications, your experience, and your skills. All right? By doing those things, we will hopefully be able to unlock what this is. Who's heard of the hidden job market before? Yeah? Deadly. So the idea behind the hidden job market is companies all the time, and we work with them that do it, so we know it happens on a day-to-day basis. Do not post jobs online. They go looking. So they go looking on Indeed, like I said earlier on, those key skills that we've put onto the CV, that's going to help you be more visible. So when they go searching for you, and like I said, 60% of them aren't advertised, they're going to be able to find you much easier. When you do this on LinkedIn, they're going to find you much easier, which more engagement on your profiles will lead to more interviews. All that making sense? Deadly. So, and to wrap up, it's your career survival kit. So if you grab that, and then I have one more point to quickly make with you just to tidy up. We won't have time to run through a video. Our team are outside though, they're using it today. It's called the Career Navigator. It's the first AI tool of its kind. It actually allows you to tailor your CV within about 2 minutes. So what it does is, you'll upload your CV. So like I said earlier on, that you need to have tailor your CV for every role. You upload the job description. It'll tell you what the problems are and why it's not matching and why you won't get past the ATS. You click correct it. You press the button, should I say, to correct it, and it'll pop out the correct CV to use. That is what we touched on earlier on, 8 to 10 times more likely to get you an interview. All right. The team are outside showing it off today. You're more than welcome to have a look at it and see how it works, but it's part of all of our programs that we use on a day-to-day basis. And the benefit behind that is it means that you can, instead of, if you're applying for hundreds of jobs, which you shouldn't be, just to clarify, but if you were applying for such a high level of jobs, you can actually now tailor your CV in a matter of seconds. It's actually that quick. And we're the only company that has it. So, as part of that, we're also offering €100 off any of our programs if you're engaging with our team today and you feel that you need that help. Our big focus on all of this, by the way, is if you can get there yourself, deadly. If this has helped you today to get there, amazing. That's exactly what it's all about. But if you're struggling to get there and if you need that extra help, that's when you need coaching services. Yeah? In the same way, for any other walk of life, if you're struggling to get an outcome that you need and you've tried everything, or you feel like you've tried everything, or you just want someone in your corner to help you overcome it, which is why career coaching is the fastest growing industry on the planet right now, because people realize they need someone in their corner helping them navigate. That's exactly what we're here for. But if you're getting there already and you're getting that success, you don't need us. Sound good? Well, listen, thank you so much for your attention and time. Really appreciate it.
Dan Potts, the career coach. Do we have...